Aloha! Welcome to the Sharpest College Football Podcast, Island Time. This is our Week 10 preview. I am Buck Metrics, joined as always by Robert Martin, and joined as always on Island Time by our guy Duck. Gentlemen, I have to be honest, I did not have time to check out Island Time in my absence. I trust all went well in my absence.
We said nice things about UCLA.
Okay.
We said nice things about UCLA.
Okay. Yeah, never miss an opportunity, right?
We're like, Buck's gone. We got to say good things about UCLA.
Yep. Dan Lanning going to be the president in 2032, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Well done. Okay. Good job. Appreciate it. Looking forward to some games this week. We covered quite a few on the, I guess we call it the podcast proper, but as always, a lot of good games to cover here. Starting with, I don't know, your mileage may vary on how good you think this game is. How do we characterize Penn State? Weary, ragged, ready for the season to end, packing it in? What's the phrase to describe the Knits at this point?
Bowl eligible question mark?
Striving for bowl eligibility? Yeah, what about you, Doug? What's the adjective here?
I don't know. I didn't see the mass exodus, and we haven't seen people bring the doctor's notes from home saying, oh, I'm hurt, I can't play, whatever else. I don't think we're going to see this mass drop off. I know the quarterback's out for the season, but Drew Aller has been really playing quite poorly anyway this season, and this is a proud program. I don't think they just mail it in. They played really tough at Iowa before the bye week. And yeah, the results on the field were not. It was stunning against UCLA and Northwestern, but they competed against Northwestern. They competed at Iowa. I don't think they lay down here and just fold like a fart in the wind. I think they'll play football on Saturday.
Yeah, I didn't see, in fairness, I saw just highlights of that Penn State at Iowa game. Did they really alternate quarterbacks? Like literally alternate on play-by-play, from what I understand? Is that accurate?
I thought it was more drive-by-drive than play-by-play, but yeah.
The play-by-play has got to be just a night. I don't know. I would say it can't be fun to defend, but if it's Iowa, you're not really about fun. You have a different definition of fun. I guess that's fair to say.
And what are you doing there? Are you the head coach or the offensive coordinator has their arm around the quarterback and they're sending the plays in with the QB like George O'Leary used to do?
That's pretty recent. I was going to go back to about the mid-'70s, where they just kind of just send him in alternating. I didn't know George O'Leary did that. Wow. Last of a breed there. All right, let's get in. Let me grab my laser pointer here. There we go. All right. A little breakdown of the numbers here. As Doug mentioned, boy, Drew Aller's not really been setting the world on fire. I guess the alternating quarterbacks, regardless of interval, did not do much better against Iowa, although they did get 25 points, which is something to be said, or 24, something to be said for that. It's not bad for visiting Iowa. Obviously, Julian saying, I'd be curious if I just took out that opener where they really kept he's going up the learning curve and they kept the shackles on him. I'd love to see what his numbers are outside if we just exclude that first game there on that Apex Plus. Penn State a little bit better at running the ball. This is a little surprising here. This number's a little short for an offense that I thought was as good as Ohio State's. Ohio State, obviously, with that wide receiver room, more explosive, although this number's a little short again for Ohio State on offense. It's the first time I've felt really broken down Ohio State in this format that I can remember. Really good defense here. This is an elite passing defense here for the Buckeyes. Really good passing defense for Penn State. Penn State struggling a little bit against the run. Ohio State just good enough. Obviously, this is a big game. Number one team hosting. Is this the CBS game, by the way? Do we know?
I would guess Fox.
I thought that they...
Yeah, Fox.
Wow. Is it the big noon?
Yeah, CBS gets Wazoo, Oregon State.
What? Did they draw the short straw?
Worse.
Yeah, that's what they signed up for when they gave the shoe to the SEC. That's what they asked. Oh, they also get Indiana, Maryland in the prime slot.
Okay, that makes sense. When I just kind of, I guess, the headline, I guess I'll call it. This number from a headline standpoint looks a little short to me, but then look at the models, and my two models have Ohio State covering by a field goal, if you will. Robert's actually got Penn State covering by a field goal here. Doug, you might be on a different wavelength based on your comments here. I just see these obviously as two teams in totally different ways. I'll throw it to you on Penn State with one of my favorite questions. Robert, generous as he is, gives you 100 Canadian, which is about 76 US. to bet on this game, what would you need the line to be to bet on Penn State in this regard?
To feel really comfortable, probably 24.5, but this line was 3.5 during the summer.
Yeah.
And so the perception is so changed based on what these teams have done. Now, Ohio State has been significantly better than I have expected defensively. Mm-hmm. They lost so much production from last year's defense, and they've still gone out, and they've absolutely done it. So for Penn State to compete here, they're going to have to try to run the football. They do have a good running back, but it's not going to be very easy for them to do. And the defense is going to have to get pressure, something nobody else has been able to do against Ohio State this season. But it's interesting, Julian Sayin threw the ball 42 times as Ohio State struggled to run it against Wisconsin. Now, Sayin has improved week to week drastically as a passer, and he is absolutely able to make all the throws, which has been very impressive for him. Tip of the cap there. It's hard for me to understand how Penn State consistently moves the ball. Even if they were to procure 3 explosive plays, 3 20-yard plays, how do they then stack successful plays above and beyond that? I just don't know. And I can see Penn State in third down a lot. Ohio State allows just 21% successful conversions on third down. To me, it seems like an under. It seems like a Penn State team total under that projected would be like 32-11, so under 10.5.
I like that.
I just don't know. And I think I read Ohio State has allowed 0 first half touchdowns this season. So I would consider plugging my nose and taking a first half Penn State team total under 6.5. I don't think the pace will be there to get a lot of possessions, and I just don't really anticipate that Penn State is going to be able to stack the successful plays together. So in their drives, let's say there's 11 possessions in this game, and we're assured they're going to punt 5 or 6 times. Well, in the other 5 possessions, if they are able to move the ball for 2 or 3 first downs, you're only at midfield. So what are you going to do after that? And Ohio State's red zone defense has just been exquisite. 2 red zone touchdowns all season in 12 trips. They just do not give up scores. I don't think that Penn State is scoring 3 times, and I don't think they're scoring 2 touchdowns. The play here is the team total under.
I can't disagree with that. I actually wrote that down as a note for Friday night. Robert, same question I started with Duck. How many points would you need to take Penn State with your $100 Canadian?
Yeah, I'd probably want the 24.5 too. That sounds about right. The thing is, though, as we've been going through this, I've been thinking about it more. So right off the top, you said we haven't talked about Ohio State. We haven't broken them down this way. And that's true, right? The only times we did it was Texas. Then when they played Texas in week 1. And then when they played Washington. And that's the only times we ever talked about Ohio State. Ohio State is like very sneakily been under the radar for a number 1 team. We don't talk about them much. We're just like, oh, they're just a good team. And this is not a knock against Ohio State. It's just, they're just there. We're just like, wow, what a good team. Couple points, though. One, they scored 14 points against Texas's defense. Florida scored more than that. Actually, Kentucky did not, but Mississippi State did. Now, okay, fine. You want to say that their defense is broken down more, sure, fine. But again, only
first game for the quarterback too.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's not necessarily, but again, that is that number. Only 24 against Washington, which is the same number as Michigan, a team that's not particularly known for having an amazing offense. That was later in the season too. And again, we're now looking at a point where Ohio State is basically run first, like having to throw 40 times in a 37-0 blowout. That's a little concerning, I'd say. That's a real big concern. Why do you have to keep throwing it that often? You're up 30, like before you're up 37-0, you're up 30-0. You couldn't just let it go, like 28-0. Like, why did we keep having to do this? Just let it go. You're up by a ton. The thing is, do I think Penn State's going to win this game? No. But if there's a scenario where, because again, look at Ohio State, very clearly quarterback heavy. Penn State, much better defensive apex than a really low defensive apex. That's going to be the best defense they've played since Texas, maybe? I'm not sure exactly where Texas is now, but that's probably the best since Texas, definitely the best since Washington. So this is this is now going to be the best defense Julian Sayin has possibly played, maybe even better than the Texas defense. And okay, yeah, on the run, and obviously Ohio State has really good defense on both sides. But if you can keep wearing them down if you could just find a way, do something. Maybe I don't know if as long as it's not because again, it's not James Franklin calling plays. This isn't like okay, we're supposed to throw a screen here. So if you can maybe do something, maybe again, there's a path to covering this spread. I will say though, and this is maybe a bit of an interesting point here. This game is Penn State Ohio State. This, as Duck said, this game was 3.5, and I remember saying in the preseason, I said if this game is 3.5, which to be fair, had things played out the way we'd thought it would happen, this spread would be 3.5 right now. Had James Franklin still been hired, Drew Aller not out, this would be 3.5. I would have said just put everything on Ohio State minus 3.5. That spread was 3.5. Call it 17-point movement. Indiana, Penn State, which is next week. There's already a look-ahead line for that on FanDuel. The preseason line for that was Indiana plus 16.5. It is now Indiana minus 11.5. So, crazily enough, now it's Penn State at Ohio State, and then it's Indiana at Penn State. So that's the discrepancy for the spread. But somehow, the spread of Penn State versus Indiana has moved more than the spread of Penn State at Ohio State. That's a bit weird, isn't it? Isn't that a bit weird? Because this one has only moved 17. The Indiana one has moved. What was that? 27. Like that's.
It's two parts of the power ranking. Indiana's power rating has gone up so much that they are now perceived to be the legitimate second best team in the country instead of the 62nd best that they were supposed to be at the beginning of the year. That's why. Ohio State could have only climbed so far because they were 8th in the preseason. And Penn State, like it or not, Penn State is still a top 30 team in FBS, 40 team, whatever it is. They're not down there with UTEP. I mean, they're like... No. They're still a top 40 team, and you can only drop them so far, and you can only elevate Ohio State so far, which I think is why that spread has not been as variant.
Fair.
But Indiana was projected regular season win 7.5, so you're looking at a team that was projected to be middle of the road Big Ten. Not so. Kurt Cignetti has continued to show that he's an elite recruiter, and he can scheme it up with the best of them.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair point, and that's all right. I didn't realize that, it's actually both of them moving when this one is just Penn State moving. But still, though, there's an argument here where maybe Penn State can do something. Maybe Julian Sain isn't really good against elite defenses, because he was really not that inspiring against Washington. That wasn't that most inspiring, and definitely not against Texas, a Texas defense that was exploited a lot more down the season. Sain's gotten better, yes, but I don't know. Maybe he's not that great. We'll see.
A few things on that in response. Washington, I think that was Ohio State's first road game. So that's
true.
For
actually.
a freshman quarterback, that's something. Going back to now, I actually did highlight Ohio. This number for the run offense of Ohio State's a little low to my conscience. I wouldn't crush them too much though for not running against Wisconsin. That's like the only thing that Wisconsin does well. Is defend the run. They were top 10 at a few points in the GGAB plus defensive metrics. But still, this is not an elite Ohio State run offense. But you look at this Penn State run defense, it's not really where it should be. And that brings me to another point, which is, I'll put this in the form of a question for both you guys. It happened at Oklahoma State and Ohio State. Jim Knowles takes a year to get his thing implemented and understand exactly what he has. And his players to understand it. And so my question is, this is a kind of an interesting setup here. Would Ryan Day understand this defense better than the Penn State players at this point? I think that's something to look into. What do you guys think?
That's a fair point.
What do you think, Doc?
Hard to say. I think nobody should know the Ohio State, the wheels in the cog, and how everything runs better than Jim Knowles, who sees it every day in practice for however many years.
Oh, sure.
So he should have some sort of advantage as well. But yeah, that's a tough question to ask. Yeah, I would think they would both have probably some wrinkles up their sleeve. They both have some tricks up their sleeve for the other to try to pull one on them. Maybe the defense puts a few unique looks out there, or they send the blitz from a different pressure point. And maybe Ohio State's offense, something to them that nobody has seen this season. I wouldn't be surprised if either one of those things.
Okay, yeah, goes both ways. Fair. All right, my last point on this is, a question on this is, it's 1970, 8. The great Ace Rothstein is running the Tangiers sportsbook in the movie Casino. And there's no concept of a look-ahead line. And set up there to say there's no concept of a look-ahead line until basically Sam hangs a number on Sunday, probably Sunday afternoon at that point, since things were just a little different back then in the 70s. Without any concept of a look-ahead line, do you think this number is 20.5, or do you think there's some kind of preseason gravitational pull still on this number? I just think this should be like a field goal higher. I'm a little stuck on that for some reason.
It does feel like it should be higher. It feels like it should be higher, but the fact that it's not higher means that maybe the books know something we don't know.
Yeah, this is almost like a repeat of that analysis we had on Indiana and Maryland too. What am I missing? Although Indiana's on the road.
Yeah.
What do you think, Duck? Am I ever thinking that in terms of the gravitational pull of a preseason line?
It really depends on how you look at it. If you look at the on-field performance and the turmoil that Penn State's been under, and you just look situationally and say, oh, they lost to UCLA and Northwestern, they suck, then this line's significantly too short. If you look at the roster and the talent composite that who makes up the team 1 through 95, and the people on the 2 deep who's actually playing in the game, and you look at the actual talent composite, this could be a field goal too high. Could be a touchdown too high. I could see laying 2 touchdowns. I could see laying 17, but I don't know. This is still a team that is, if they go out and play with attitude, this is still a talented Penn State football team. Many people's pick to win the national championship. So this line is 7 points higher than Ohio State's line against Illinois, and nearly 2 touchdowns higher than the line against Washington. So you're really penalizing Penn State for a quarterback who didn't play very well all season being out, and a coach that nobody really likes being shown the shoe. I don't know. If I had a gun to my head right now and I had to make a play, I'm taking. I'm not laying 3 touchdowns here against a team that I think can absolutely at least play. I don't know that they're going to move it and have a bunch of success on the scoreboard, but a couple of weeks ago, this team went toe-to-toe with Oregon, who's still a really good top 10 football team, and it had very little to do with Drew Aller.
Fair point. You make a compelling case, and if the Penn State athletic director wants to get in contact with you to make for maybe some little PR work, just reach out on.
Let me just put it this way.
Yes?
I would feel a lot more comfortable at 24.5. If I see a 21.5, I'm probably going to push a play across.
Okay. Interesting. Wow.
Probably,
You're seeing a rock fight then for the most part then.
It'll be 38.
Okay. All right. Enough of that one. I like this one. This is a little intrigue here. Duke at Clemson. Clemson giving 3.5. Again, one of these NFL feels like lines where, okay, we'll give Clemson 3 points for home field and then a half because I don't know. Because they won the national championship in 2018. Looking at the numbers here, Duke getting better quarterback play. Not surprising if you join us for the ACC preview. Duke running the ball better. Duke a more explosive passing offense. That is interesting. Clemson better at the defense here. Very good pass defense. Good enough on the run on even terms with Duke in that regard. The one place where Clemson really stands out on defense versus Duke is the pass defense. Now, I'm not sure how much Clemson can exploit that. Is Klubnik still... Is he out? I don't know how bad that injury was. Do you...
TBD.
Okay. What's your
TBD,
thoughts on that?
Day to day.
I was clearly bearish on Klubnik for coming into the season, and even earlier than that. Do we even think that's a difference, the backup versus Klubnik?
I think there is a big drop-off in quarterback play here. Sometimes you don't get that big of a drop-off, but I think the backup is really bad. I still don't think that necessarily is going to determine who wins or covers, but I do think the backup is really putrid for Clemson.
First of all, I find that surprising because I know when he came in, when he was playing last week, the announcer said that the coaches have full faith in him. Are you saying that was not entirely true? Do they do that on TV sometimes?
I think a coach will do and say anything to his to their team in order to get them to buy in. Every single team, and this is what I've said about some of these teams. If you tell UTEP that they're mathematically alive to win the conference, in that locker room, they're going to get hyped up that, guys, we control our own destiny. All we got to do is go out on the field and prove it. I know you guys can do it. We're going to win the conference. He's going to say that until it's mathematically not possible. And that's what these coaches are going to do. You can't go in there and say, yeah, I don't know, this guy stinks, and I wish he would be playing at Wofford right now. And I'd switch quarterbacks with Wofford right now if we could do that. Where's the Furman guy that we wanted? Why couldn't we get him? You're just never going to hear Dabo say that.
Just to take that supposition to its conclusion, you left out the part where then UTEP realizes, oh, our coach is Scotty Walden. We have no chance here. But a little sidetrack there.
And let's get, just real quick, and I hope the listeners tomorrow really enjoy this. Did you see how that UTEP game ended last night? My goodness.
We were actually doing the pod. We were denied the opportunity, unfortunately.
In 20 years of betting on college football, I've never seen worse refereeing.
Okay, I'll check Twitter for the video afterwards. My gosh.
It was atrocious. Just go watch it. It didn't determine necessarily who won, but it did determine who covered. And it was really bad.
Robert, go ahead. Sorry.
So for this game, Clemson is actually, I'm realizing now, Clemson is not technically eliminated from the ACC, I guess. That sounds like a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
That sounds like someone with conspiracy theory coming up and say, hey, did you know that Clemson is not actually eliminated from the ACC? But it's true.
October.
And again,
so, yeah.
It's for a couple more days.
It's going to take Georgia Tech losing the rest of their games, but yeah.
But that's the thing, right? It's just, okay, Miami's going to have to lose to Syracuse again, even though they're
I was going to say, that doesn't seem as crazy as we would have supposed, right?
It's so funny, too, because, again, a lot of people hyped, we're going to recap here from the preseason here. People were like, Clemson, they won the ACC last year, they were a playoff team. It's like, yeah, but they won the ACC on, almost a technicality because they, barely got into the championship game. The only reason they got into the championship game was because Syracuse upset Miami as, 20-something point underdogs in the last week of the season. Yep. And then they got in there, and then as underdogs, they then upset it. And I think it was a last-second field goal away from – it was a last-second field goal. That game was really weird, too. And then, okay, they won the ACC, so now they're there. But if they lost that game, they wouldn't have made the playoffs. And then they lost by 14 to Texas, and you're like, a national championship team. So this is the thing with Clemson here. My model has the quarterback that played the most in the last game, so that's the backup. So that's probably why it's 12. But honestly, my model kind of likes Duke anyways. So I don't believe in this Clemson team. Maybe they haven't been mathematically eliminated yet because their losses are Georgia Tech and... No, wait, they have three losses. Georgia Tech, SMU, and Syracuse. Yeah, so they have three so they're not they're really getting close there. This is really the technicality of everybody would have to lose every game. But no, Duke is pretty good. They're actually not a bad team. They lost to Georgia Tech and Tulane, but I think they're better. My model has them as better, and I mean it's at Clemson as well. If it's the backup playing, and just looking on Twitter here, Dabo saying that Klubnik has practiced a good bit, which I'm not sure what that means. I guess it means he's practiced a little bit. I'm not sure if he's trying to say he could start, so they prep for Klubnik, and then I don't know. But maybe he plays or not. Doesn't sound like he's 100%. Don't think Klubnik's going to be running the ball very much here. So, I don't know. I've bet Duke here already. I want to keep fading this Clemson team until they fire Dabo here. So I'm just going to keep doing that.
Okay, well, you might be fading for a while then. It might be a real truck for you here. Yeah, now again, my model's player agnostic. I can probably just toss the Clemson being favored in that regard. Yeah, I think Duke's a better team here. It's just that simple. They're I don't care who the quarterback is for Clemson. Duke's a lot better at quarterback. Duke is a better passing game, better running game. And I guess Duck, the one thing where Clemson has an advantage is Duke's passing defense by my metrics is not that great. Do you think Clemson can exploit that to basically win, let alone cover?
They haven't exploited it this year against anybody. Their passing offense has just been middling this season, and certainly not the eye-popping stats that we've seen from Clemson in priors. If you go back and watch the film, Duke outplayed Georgia Tech significantly in that game. Duke went right down the field early in the first quarter. They fumbled on the 2-yard line. It gets returned the other way. True 14-point swing. Georgia Tech didn't score an offensive touchdown until there were 5 minutes remaining in the game. So the defense has truly been significantly improved. Held Syracuse to 3 on the road. After being down 21-7 against Cal, they go 38-0 in the second half and embarrass the Golden Bears. I think Duke is really legitimately talented and still just playing with a little piss and vinegar in their blood, just angry about some of the bad losses this year and the giveaways, and the turnovers have really hurt them. I think if Duke protects the football, they win this game outright. And I like the way the quarterback is playing. I like the running backs. They got these two running backs that are playing really well, and that would be Nate Shepard and Anderson Castle, and both of them kind of complement each other. But yeah, I think Duke has the goods here to really put a scare into Clemson and possibly win this game on the field. This is an important hook, and I think this line is going down, so you'll want to get 3.5.
Agree. And I see some striking parallels between Clemson and Texas offensively, in that you have a heralded quarterback who was just, I think, somewhere between overrated or just like whatever, and a run defense that just is not that good. And it's, I think, a big part of the problem is a soft offensive line. And I know Death Valley and The Rock and all that good stuff. Not The Rock the actor, The Rock at the top of the hill or whatever.
Howard's Rock.
Thank you. Not Rocky Johnson's Rock. I don't know if this is really a great home game for Clemson, because Duke can move the ball, and at halftime, if Duke's up by 10 points, this could be another one of those where, boy, I wish I was on the road, because the home crowd might actually turn here. Am I overthinking that? It just feels like that. Disappointing season. If you get another soft effort by the offensive line, that just feels like a recipe for sneakily just a toxic environment, yeah?
It could be.
Yeah, so I think we're all aligned here. Duke feels like the play. Anything else on this one? Sorry, Duck, I cut you off.
I think, and we can file this away for next year when the regular season win comes out or when the conference futures come out, but off-season prep and checking the transfer portal logs and checking what teams are doing in the off-season, Dabo has not adapted well. He's really built this Clemson program on his culture and doing things his way, and we recruit a certain type of guy that's going to fit what we're doing here, and that's really great and dandy and everything, but NIL is changing this game month to month. You have got to be recruiting people a different way, and if you don't embrace the portal, your team talent composite may only be improving slightly, and everybody else is getting so much better. So it'll be something to watch, because if that headstrong approach continues, I don't think this team will be any better than 7-5 or 8-4. I just don't think it's possible based on the players that are going or not going there. People aren't just going to Clemson anymore because, oh, it's Clemson. They want the money. Show me the do-re-mi. That's what they want. They want to get paid to play, and whoever ponies up for the most money is getting these players to go to their school.
Yeah, no, fair point. Yeah, long-term, like I said, but again, it's going to take a lot to get him fired there, so Robert's little Dabo fade wagon there might
you might be fading for 5
exactly.
years.
All right.
Put my kid through
There
college.
you go.
Put a kid through college.
Yes. All right, next game. Boy, not to just be a broken record here. Rutgers at Illinois. Again, this line just looks short to me, and I know I just sound like probably just a sucker here. Just a caveman. Jeez, Illinois is way better. I don't know. Duck, let's just start with here. My metrics have Rutgers defense, as I suspected before the season. Rob Smith working his magic that he also worked at Minnesota, trying to get Philip John Fleck fired. This Rutgers defense is just atrocious for a Power 2 team. I think there's an underappreciation of just how bad they are. Now, I'm not saying my numbers are right. Do you think Rutgers defense is not just an absolute abomination?
Per PFF, which is an advanced metrics website, they grade out as the worst defense, the worst run defense, the worst tackling unit, third worst pass rush, and far and away the worst coverage unit in the Big Ten. They are at the bottom in every one of these metrics, and their special teams are also uncharacteristically bad. And so I just think that it's such a hard thing to adjust your power ratings to with a Schiano coach defense.
Yeah.
You think of Rutgers as this gritty, hard nose, stick your nose in there and stop the run. An old basketball team that would always crash the boards and bang in the paint. It's like when that team goes away from that, it's so hard to power rate Rutgers now as a
Yes.
finesse football team, but that's exactly what they are. They're all finesse. They have no fortitude. This team, it's almost like how you power rate FAU. It's just put 11 folding chairs out there and see what happens, because this defense is doing absolutely nothing to stop anybody. And you just look at some of the simple counting metrics, like 6.25 yards per rush, 7.7 yards per play. This team is giving up almost 500 yards per game and 31 points. It's just staggering how non-competitive they are. Now, they beat Purdue last week, but Purdue has Maccabee, and that's really about it. This could be major, major trouble for the Knights.
Yeah. Now, in fairness, they do have a good passing game. Calais Monis finally got it together. They have a couple of receivers that have been in my top 10 in player, Ryan. But geez, they're like the Air Force of the Big Ten in that they don't tackle, and they put a lot of pressure on the offense there. And I look at just from a metric standpoint here, Meyer is having a really good year, 174 Apex Plus, and this Rutgers pass defense is super obliging. Let me throw it to you on this, Robert. I'm going to put the number at 2. Illinois over or under 2 punts in this game.
I think under 2 punts.
I think so too.
Because they just go for it too, right? Like you can get that by them just being super aggressive on 4th down. Also, like, we've now seen Rutgers get absolutely pummeled by several teams: Washington, Oregon, Illinois. Like, I think the reason this is 12.5 is just because of last week, Washington versus Illinois, which was close for a while, and then Washington just blew them out. So, yeah, Illinois is just a better team. Their offense is better, and their defense is way better than Rutgers. Yeah, I already put something on Illinois here. Because I have this at what?
16? Yeah.
Yeah, 16. So it's borderline play for me. Very close to borderline. But it's just shy of it. So I've played this already. Okay. I like this.
So clearly, my model is 27 and 22 here. So yeah, we're all aligned on this. It sounds like, I don't know. I think Duck makes a good point. It's until he retires, everybody's going to think that every Tom Izzo team rebounds really well, even if they don't even have a big man. It's just one of those things. What do they call it? Just I don't know.
Brand tax. You're paying the brand tax.
All right, Robert and I discussed this one a little bit. I chose this one because I think this is the best chance for someone who should have gotten a little bit of discussion in our midseason Coach of the Year, Casey Keeler, to improbably get the Temple Owls to a bowl game in year 1. You know what? It's a good year to be an Owl. Temple's doing well. Kennesaw State headed to the title game, if I can be a little optimistic here. FAU, not so much, so maybe it's a good...
Rice is having a good year.
So yeah, 3 out of every 4 Owls is saying it's a good year. I want to believe here in Temple. Casey Keeler, why not? I thought that he would struggle, having lost Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. What's the guy that went to North Texas that we all loved? Cassidy something? The DC for...
Yeah, the defensive coordinator,
Skylar Cassidy. Thank you. This looks pretty even until we get to... All right, East Carolina's got a more dynamic passing game here, but Temple's just as efficient. Temple runs the ball a little bit better. We're even terms here in terms of pass defense. All right, East Carolina's a little better on the run here. I think I've got to have a little allowance here for just first-year learning curve for Temple. I've got this basically... both my models have this just even here. I've got a 31-31 and 29-30. Robert's got East Carolina big here. Duck, since this is in your backyard here, and you know the Pirates better than either Robert or I, what are your feelings on this one here?
This is a quintessential game that East Carolina would go up there and lose. And we got interesting things going on because East Carolina plays very fast offensively, but they're not exceedingly efficient and they're not overly explosive, specifically in the run game. The other problem is their red zone offense has been absolutely atrocious all season. When you look at what the Pirates have done, 36 red zone trips, 20 touchdowns, 9 empty possessions. It's been a systematic problem for years with East Carolina, and it just is not getting any better. They take chances. They go for it on fourth down. They are not cashing in the red zone. It's hard with the type of offense that they run when you have to condense the field in. They really can't get it going and really punch it in when they really need to. So that could be advantage Temple. It'll be interesting because we thought Temple, with the offensive coordinator who came in from Montana State was notoriously slow. They ran 37 seconds between plays for the entire season. That's the play clock getting down below zero every single play. And Temple has ran quicker than that. Their pace has been much faster than I thought. Still not blazing fast, but a lot faster than I thought. Now, this is in the weeds a bit, but they are playing this game obviously at Lincoln Financial Field where Temple plays all their games. And there's a college game that's being played there on Thursday night. And that game is going to be played where there's going to be potentially up to 2 inches of rain that's going to fall in Philadelphia. And the field is going to be sloppy, treacherous, and it'll deteriorate quickly. And I just don't know if there's enough time in between that game and this game to get the field back to a real desirable level. So we could see this game played on a sloppy field. It could be a tough field turf, and footing might be tough for both. So with that, with ECU's inefficiencies, with Temple's attitude and their fortitude defensively, I think this is one that's actually a sneaky under. This has come up to 58.5, but I think this is one where there's a lot of yards between the 20s, and then you get into the red zone and guys can't get the push. They can't convert on third and short. They're settling for field goals, possibly some missed kicks. I don't know. I lean under, but this is, for a side perspective, this is absolutely a game that I can sniff it a mile away. ECU could be the best team in the conference, and to go up there and lose would be no shock to me.
What's the Thursday night game? Is Villanova playing?
No, it's Delaware State and Norfolk State, Michael Vick's team, against Deshaun Jackson's team, and they just scheduled to play that one in Philly.
Oh my gosh, okay, that's cool. Aside from ruining the field for the Saturday game, but all right.
And there's supposed to be 2 inches of rain in Philly tomorrow night. All that precipitation is going to start right during the game. That might rain during the day too, but a lot of rain in Philly.
Yeah.
But we've got a feather in the cap too to Evan Simon. 21 touchdown passes without throwing an interception. Evan Simon for Temple has been absolutely lights out this season at quarterback for the Owls. Exquisite football all year.
Wow, that is something. Yeah. I'm guessing he throws a lot of short stuff too, since he's playing in a lower conference too. I'll put it this way: he's probably not running like Kentucky's offense, where they just chuck it downfield like every other play.
I guess not.
Robert, your model has East Carolina by 2 scores here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna just, I don't know. Duck makes a pretty good case for Temple here, plus 4.5. What do you think?
I don't know. My model just doesn't like that at all. Your model very clearly shows us a lot closer. Almost not a play on Temple, but close to a play on Temple. My model's completely the other way. We're just diametrically opposed in this one. I don't know. I think I'm just not going to touch this one. I think maybe just kind of leave it. But I don't know. ECU is the better team. That's the thing. Now, is Temple a challenging place to play at? Yes. Is Temple look better this year? Yes. But ECU is just a pretty good team. They're not an amazing team, but they're just a pretty good team, right? They almost took down NC State. They were competitive-ish with BYU, but that's apparently a really good BYU team now. So my model just sees ECU as just a good team. Like they crushed Army. So I don't know. My model likes ECU. Maybe again there is some certain matchup dynamics where maybe this is just a very weird game and they lose it. But my model seems to disagree with that.
Yeah, two teams with only 1 loss in this conference. I don't know. We talked about it yesterday. Temple's schedule gets a lot tougher from here on out. This is like their last best chance to get bowl eligible. But the trajectory is the right way. If I just look at this as a tie, and I feel, okay, Temple's got a lot of learning curve in the history here that build up to these ties. Yeah, I'm not going to bet it, but I just wanted to talk through it just from the whole, can Casey Keeler get to a bowl in year 1, which is really unimaginable before. All right.
Temple can beat Tulane, by the way, too. I think Temple can beat Tulane. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Tulane has been so fortunate with the turnovers. Evan Simon doesn't turn it over. Tulane was so fortunate to beat both ECU and Army, had trailed in the second half in both of those games. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Tulane has pulled out the close wins this season. I have Tulane's regular season win under. It's not going to hit, but you look at what Tulane has done on the road this season. They could have lost to South Alabama. Yeah, that's South Alabama. Very fortunate to Duke turned the ball over 4 or 5 times in the first half there. And then again, down at the half against ECU and Army, could have lost both of those games. So UTSA will be a test for them. This is not a Tulane conversation, but UTSA will be a test tomorrow. Memphis will be tough, and they could lose to Temple.
All right. So are you willing to say that Temple's going to make a bowl this year?
Oh,
wow.
absolutely.
Okay. I like it. Beautiful.
Because I think Temple can beat Army, and I think they'll be favored to beat Army.
Well, we will.
So, 6th win will come at Army, if not
I love
Saturday.
the confidence here. I don't know if we'll talk about it on Island Time next week. We'll just put it in the column as a W and move on. All right. Speaking of putting it in the W column and move on, Georgia given just 7.5 in. Where is this? This is Jacksonville? Is that where they?
Jacksonville.
Okay. We're not allowed to call it the cocktail party. What do we just call it? The party? I don't know. Do they play a lot of pin the tail and the donkey then in the tailgates? I don't know. I guess they have to tone it down here. The narratives write themselves here, and I don't even know if I need to look at the numbers because we know. Geez, I guess the one thing that sticks out is Florida's metrics are better than I expected here. This line lines up with my metrics in terms of just a one-score game. Robert's model has it a 2-score game, which just feels more appropriate to me. DJ Lagway hasn't yet plays his way off the bum list. Georgia is, what did Churchill call it? A riddle or an enigma wrapped in a riddle or whatever they are. But they find a way. I don't know what look, I'm not an X-No guy. I'm not one to just say, the play calling for this team or that team sucks. But it's hard to figure out what Georgia's doing because it's like they alternate between Andy Kotelnicki in terms of just let's not try to do anything, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, we need to do a bunch here. And then Gunnar Stockton turns into Jake Fromm or whoever you want to say, Stetson Bennett, whatever. Georgia just seems like a better team. Now you have the whole unknown. This is, who's the interim for Florida? Do we even know? Is it, it's Billy Gonzalez. I believe this is going to be his first game. Good luck going against...
He did have a bye to prepare.
So he's got a bye, and Kirby has 2 national championships, so I'm weighing those two, and I don't know. I'm not going to play this because I know this just feels like a sucker thing, but my gosh, isn't Georgia more than just a touchdown and a hook better than Florida, just from starters? Robert?
Yeah, I said this in the main podcast too, and I'll say it again. This line feels so much like a trap. I just don't know which trap it is. I don't know if this is trapping you into being like, of course Georgia's multiple scores better than Florida. And then they're like, no, Florida actually is competitive with Georgia for some reason. Or no, maybe Florida just figured out after they fired Billy Napier and then Georgia beats them by 30. This Florida team has been really hard to figure out. And we've always talked about this, like, the reverse bell curve, the binomial there, where you have these, it's not, like, the 7.5 is, like, the average, but, like, the 7.5 doesn't exist. It's either, like, Florida wins this game or Georgia wins by 30 is what I feel like. And I have no idea which, like, it's like that, there isn't a game where Georgia wins by, like, exactly 7 and, like, Florida is, like, driving down the field and gets, like, that's not happening. This isn't, they drive down the field and get a touchdown to get within 7 to cover. That's not happening. Either this game is done in the second quarter or Florida wins this. I feel like that's what I feel this works at. Or maybe, like, somehow Georgia wins by the last second field goal. I want to see the betting splits on this. Those come out in the next couple days. If the public is on Georgia, I'll bet Florida. If the public is on Florida, I'd bet Georgia. But it'd have to be, like, decidedly either way. If the public is decidedly taking the side on this, I'll take the other side. But if not, I'm just leaving this alone. This season is, like, done for Florida. I think they have, 3 wins now? The weirdest 3 wins ever in Long Island University, Texas, and Mississippi State.
Great company for Texas there.
Eclectic. Yeah. It is. I mean, it's insane. Texas is also not having a great season either. But this is the thing, right? It's like, what even is the season? You have 3 wins. Okay, if you win this game, okay, I think they have Kentucky, so there's, like, a chance at a bowl, maybe, but that's very iffy. And, like, at best, but you'd have to beat Georgia, like a top 10 team. Like, I don't think that's happening. But this line suggests it's possible. What's Florida here? Plus 210, plus 220? That's not crazy. We've seen far bigger dogs win outright in dominating fashion, too. Like, this line makes no sense to me. This line, I think, was 7.5 at the beginning of the year, too, if I remember correctly. This line was 7.5 at the beginning of the year, and it hasn't moved at all, which is also very concerning, because why has it not moved? Is it the same as Penn State? Ohio State? No. But, like, it should be at least another score, right? Not, like, 3 scores like Penn State, Ohio State, but at least one more. I don't know. This line feels weird. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not touching it, but if I see like those betting spreads where it's 80% of public tickets are on Georgia, it'd be like, all right, Florida time, let's do this. That's what I'm gonna do. So,
Duck, let me just ask you this again. This is Robert did a good callback here, so I'm going to do the callback as well. 1976, Ace Rothstein runs the Tangiers Casino. It's Sunday afternoon. He's putting out his lines for the week. If there's no concept of a look-ahead line, it just doesn't feel like this game would be 7.5.
Tough to say. Florida's defense is pretty nasty, and I don't think Georgia's pass rush really puts any fear in anybody. Georgia, up to this point in the season, 8 sacks, 27 tackles for loss. They do that in the first 3 weeks every other year, and we're 7-8 games into it, and they only have 8 sacks as a team. The other problem is Georgia has a big propensity to give up big plays. And if you look at where they were at in the middle of the third quarter against Ole Miss, against Auburn, they have been in real trouble in a lot of their games this year, and they're just not blowing the doors off of anybody. I think Florida getting healthier with some of the receivers coming back has helped them, and I don't know. I think that Florida can hang around here. It's hard to lay so much when you have a Georgia team that struggles in pass coverage. They struggle with giving up the big plays. And when you line up against that front seven, it's no longer a vaunted Georgia defense that's just going to overwhelm you because they don't have any pass rush, and they've just been middling at times, creating havoc and stopping the runs. I don't know. Neutral setting, kind of a split crowd. I think Florida has a chance to hang here with the bye week to prepare for it.
Like to the point where you would actually back Florida?
I have not yet, no, and I don't think it's not really on my radar to try to do that, but I wouldn't be laying 7.5, no. People did that with Georgia last week, and were very lucky. It took 17-0 in the fourth quarter, and Ole Miss kind of flubbed that one up, but Georgia has been very fortunate in many games this year. It's not sustainable, I don't think.
I think Robert got it, he characterized it right with the, what'd you call it, the binomial?
Yeah, the problem is we won't know. The public bets on Saturday afternoon while they're sitting in front of their TV 15, 20 minutes before kickoff. That's when all the public money comes. No public is betting this early in the week.
Fair. I mean, a couple days, but yeah, I think this is binomial. Like, this is the binormal, like, just inverse normal distribution. This is not 7.5. Whatever the final result is, going to be nothing like 7.5. Like, we're going to be like, that was the spread in this game. Like, it's going to be something weird. Again, and I said it, Duck said it as well. I was on Ole Miss, plus 6.5. That was brutal. They should have won that game outright, repeatedly, many times. Like, that was a bad beat on a money line. Not on the 6.5. It was a bad beat on the money line, not the 6.5. Yep. So, this is the thing. It's just like, they had no business winning or covering that game at all. And they did. And you can make the argument against Auburn. They shouldn't have done that either.
Yeah, I totally get that. And I've said it like 17 times now between here and the main body pod, whatever you want to call it. Georgia is very much a getting away with it team, but I think there's a difference between getting away with it against Ole Miss and playing Florida, who had to fire their coach. No, I'm just sounding like the biggest sucker here. I'm not tempted to bet this. It just, boy, it just seems like, I'll take Robert's other supposition a step further. It just seems like they're not begging you, but it feels like they're begging me to bet on Georgia. And I'm too smart for it. I see their trap. Yeah. Doesn't it feel like that?
Like, when I see that line, I'm like, I want to bet Florida now, because this screams to me bet Georgia, and betting Georgia is the wrong play. Like, it screams to me they want you to bet Georgia, and I don't want, if I saw this line, if that name wasn't Florida, if that name was any other name, or maybe with some exceptions, obviously, but, like, I would be instantly betting the other team in that case. If you sub out the name Florida, and you said, oh, middling team, fired their coach, still keeps their quarterback, And I'd be like, okay, you know what? I could be interested in that at 7.5, but it's Georgia and it's Florida. That's the problem. I don't know. There's something about this line that just
Yeah.
it seems so weird. It seems like the preseason line, but my line, like honestly, my line seems right. Like the line in mind that my book has, that my model has, seems right. That's what it feels like it should be. Yours seem really low too,
Yeah.
honestly. Yours do, but that's the thing. And it's just, but how do you reconcile this? Mine seems right, but you have it closer, and the book has it way closer too. So I have no idea what to make of this game. I just want to see what the outcome of this is. I want to see what's right here.
And Doc, your friends on Saturday, I think they're more your friends than my friends since I'm in Newport Beach and nobody even talks to their neighbors here. You two are my only actual friends, just to break some news here. Your friends on Saturday on their couches, they're going to be betting on Georgia, right? I can't see like anybody just sitting on the couch saying, yeah, outside of the Sunshine State.
Gainesville.
Yeah.
Yeah, the public likes favorites and they like overs. Faves and overs you pay a tax for on every game. That's just the way it goes. And that's why unders are so profitable, and that's why generally if you can spot the barking dogs, they can also be profitable. The problem with the public is this, and I've heard somebody else have this conversation, and we should do an off-season pod about this. The public percentages are so skewed because now with the widespread legalization of it, people can get their bets in right from their couch, and they're all betting on Saturdays, and then the majority of the betting is done in the live wagering has totally changed. People say, I want this line, I'm going to wait for it. If it comes live, I'll bet it live. So it's really changed some of that when you'd be able to look at the betting splits and the handle versus the money. And if 72% of the tickets were on one team, but 63% of the money was on the other, so we got some big bets one way. We know which side we want to be on. It's harder and harder to really create a fingerprint for that.
Good point. Good point. All right. Not sure to make this next one here. Another SEC game. South Carolina, Ole Miss. South Carolina with just a heartbreaking loss. Ole Miss, when I did that look back, I took the metrics and I threw them into the Buck metrics machine. Got away with one against Oklahoma to some degree. Hate to give Brent Venables any credit about his team being the best, but like I said, my look back actually had it. So not sure what to take away from that. Ole Miss is at home this week, which is different. Going through the metrics real quick. Great season for Chambliss. People have been kind of crapping on Norris, but the good metrics, 148 Apex Plus, I'll take that if I'm an SEC team. Ole Miss much better running the ball. Ole Miss more explosive. My model, and I've pointed this out kind of every week, it likes South Carolina overall irrationally because their defense is so good. I think that's why I have this such a close. This is weird. Athena has this close, and my old model basically has Ole Miss by 11. But both basically say that this line is too high, as does Robert's model, which is interesting. So I will throw it to you with kind of a complex or compound question here, Duck. The big matchup here looks to be, for just going by the offense, by the squad ratings here. Ole Miss offense, I have power rated as a 12.3. I have South Carolina defense power rated as a 14.8. I like when I asked you about this in the Georgia Ole Miss game. You had a good answer. Which of these two units cracks first? Is it the Ole Miss offense or the South Carolina defense?
I would guess it would be the South Carolina defense. They haven't really, I don't know, Ole Miss really impressed me against Oklahoma. They ran so many plays. They were able to wear down the Sooners. They were able to gain explosive plays and run the ball and convert on third down when nobody else in the entire country all season had been able to do so. I was really impressed with what Ole Miss did on the road. The team looks like a real talented team, and they have a real guy at quarterback that can just make all the plays in Trinidad Chambliss. So that's the team that I think would cause the other to crack first. I think when you look at what Ole Miss has lined up against this season in Oklahoma, Georgia, LSU, South Carolina will be nothing new to them. So how can they execute? What can they do to create some explosive plays and to create some interesting sort of looks for South Carolina, which Lane Kiffin always finds ways to draw it up, and I think he'll be fine at doing that. But I just don't know necessarily how South Carolina is going to have the horses to keep up. This team doesn't convert well situationally. They really struggle on third down. This team has 8 red zone touchdowns all season. The Gamecocks just they're not proficient enough offensively for me to believe that they could match score for score. The offensive line has had major issues running the ball, protecting the quarterback. They just cannot do that. And that could be trouble against Ole Miss's defense, which is not as good as it was last year. But this team can come after you, as we saw them do to John Mateer, and really start to just get your guy rattled. And I think that could be a problem for Sellers. Just the offensive line play, and the defensive line play for that matter, hasn't been exceedingly great too. But I don't know. I think Sellers has been sacked 28 times, or South Carolina quarterbacks have been sacked 28 times this year, and they've surrendered 60 negative plays behind the line of scrimmage. So could be just big trouble.
Yeah, I want to get your opinion on some context here before I throw it to Robert on this game. Because Robert, I discussed this with him in anguish because I had that last week's game as an under. And this just stuck in my craw. Look, Oklahoma is an exceptional defense, and that's not an easy place to play. But Ole Miss only had 431 yards on 87 plays. That's 4.9 per play. I think the scoreboard just told a different story than... Or let me put it this way. To your point, they converted a lot of third downs, and I don't know how repeatable that is. Now, South Carolina's defense is not on the scale of Oklahoma, but I just think there might be some regression on that, no? Or are you just saying, hey, it's Oklahoma's defense and it's super elite, and we just have to really normalize for that effort?
I thought Oklahoma's defense was the best defense in the entire country, and Ole Miss at times made them look like chumps. So I don't know how South Carolina is going to be able to handle it on the road, lining up against this offense.
Okay, fair. Robert, Athena and you basically have the same game here, just Ole Miss by basically the common football scores of 26-25 or 25-23. The market's more in line with the Buckmetrics model. Where do you land on this one?
Yeah, this is close to being, if it's just Athena and me, it's a dual model play there, but yours is the one going against it. And even then, you're still leaning a slight play on Ole Miss there, on South Carolina, because it's only minus, you only have 11 instead of the 13. So it's, the thing is, South Carolina was very competitive against Bama. Ole Miss, it's weird. They were underdogs in that game. At times in that game, it looked like they were by far the better team. It's like, why were this? At times in that game, you're like, why was Ole Miss an underdog in this game? Like, at multiple times. It was like, why are they an underdog? And then there were times when Oklahoma kept it Oklahoma kept it competitive, and it's just like, it was a very weird game where at some point, Ole Miss is. It was actually funny because I was watching that game, and I was going through my live bets. And I was like, oh man, just Ole Miss just cruising there, dominating this game. And I'm like, oh wow, they were like 3.5 point or 4.5 point underdogs in this game. Like, it was crazy that they were underdogs. They were so dominant. But then Oklahoma actually managed to come back a bit. So I don't know. There has been a ton of talk of Lane Kiffin where other coaching jobs. First it was Florida. Then he said, I'm not sure exactly what he said. He was just like, no, it's not. I can't remember. What did he even say? It was very unmemorable, but it was just kind of like a non-denial denial. He's not, no, I'm not going to Florida. Just kind of like we have to focus on the season ahead, which is like, okay. And then now, even more with LSU, I think it's a non-zero chance that maybe Ole Miss, because again, the thing is, I don't know, it just seems like maybe that Ole Miss team gets, again, last year closing down the spread, closing down the stretch, Ole Miss faded. They lost against the Florida team they shouldn't have lost against, and South Carolina was strong, and they upset... Who did they upset? They upset someone and knocked them out. Was it Bama? Or no, who did they upset last year? South Carolina upset someone last year that kicked them out. Was it...
Yeah, I can't remember.
Auburn or Texas?
Clemson?
They beat Clemson, too, but that wasn't the big upset. There was a big upset they had. That really... Was it Ole Miss, too? No, it was someone. I thought they upset someone and then knocked them out. But anyway,
we're the proverbial best team you didn't want to face that missed the playoff. Yeah,
they were a really good team, and I remember we had them very close up there in the rankings. Like, it was like very close to them in almost the top 12. And I remember we had a huge debate between Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina. We thought that Ole Miss or South Carolina should have gotten in ahead of Bama. I don't know. Ole Miss couldn't close down the stretch last year. Maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. So I might throw something on South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina just strikes me as like a leap of faith team, though, at the same time, too. It just... Sometimes I feel good about the team, just, okay, nobody sees this coming, and I just... Kind of when I watch them, I how do I say this? My eyeballs are not the ultimate arbiter here, but their defense doesn't look as awesome as my rating has them. I think that's where I like when basically I see a sneaky good team that my metrics like that my eyeballs match up, and I just don't see that with the South Carolina defense. But my metrics, I still like them. Okay, my wife's coming home. The dog is going to go nuts here. Okay, that's an interesting one. I'm not going to play it, but I can definitely see value on the South Carolina side. I'll put it that way. That is a lot of points, and that's not something I often say on this podcast. All right, my team here. I can make this my discussion on this really quick. Not everybody's a Lincoln Riley fan. I think he's smart enough to, number one, if he was smart enough to watch this podcast and had the time, he would look at this. His run offense is like 12th or 15th. My dogs are vociferously agreeing with me on this. USC, a top 15 running offense. This is something that is a very exploitable here. The Nebraska defense. This is not a good number. They have an elite pass defense, the Cornhuskers do. If I'm Lincoln Riley, I think it's simple. I run the ball and I run it more until Nebraska figures I can stop, and I want to call at least 4 quarterback runs. I might see some Hassan Longstreet, the backup quarterback, in there for a run or two as well. I'm going to keep it simple like that. It's tough to give. This is up to 7 or 7.5 now. Does that sound right? Is this moved?
That's come down. It's 6 now.
Okay. That's more palatable. I'm not going to play this. Both my models have this like a 9-10 point game. Robert's got this a 4-point game. Not believing in the USC defense, which is totally justifiable, especially on the road. I just think that Nebraska is going to struggle. I think we see something of a repeat of that Michigan game, where Michigan just couldn't be stopped by Nebraska. And oh, by the way, USC can pass the ball too, making it even tougher. I'm not saying that USC wins by 14 plus, but boy, six. I'm not going to play it. The proverbial Robert gives me 76 US. I bet it on USC here for sure. What do you think, Duck?
I like USC. I've played USC. It's one of my plays that I really like this week. People are concerned about this because of the travel. This is the 4th travel spot this season now, so you're getting accustomed to what you have to do to go out east or east of the Mountain Time Zone. But USC's rushing offense very strong, 5.9 yards per carry team average. USC first in the country in offensive success rate, first in finishing drives. 33 of 36 red zone trips have resulted in scores. And this is now back-to-back weeks where Nebraska's offense just has not had a lot of productivity. 3 out of the last 5 games, Nebraska has unsuccessfully run the ball for 100 yards. And the offensive line has just been terrible, which is really a problem here because USC's defense can procure sacks and negative plays behind the line of scrimmage. Nebraska has allowed 27 sacks against them, just not good in the trenches on either side. We saw it against Minnesota. We saw it a little bit against Northwestern. I just don't think this team can pass protect, and I don't think they'll be able to run the football against USC, who has been decent at times against the run this year. I think this is trouble for Nebraska. I think this is just going to be one where you look up in the middle of the third quarter and you're like, why the heck did I bet Nebraska here? They stink.
Oh, you're on mute.
Nebraska technically in the playoff hunt, so I don't know if I'd say they stink. I may say they stink today. But yeah, I can't disagree with anything you say. Good points all. And I think the thing is, Nebraska's, I don't want to say they're limited, but they're not as balanced as you would want to be to really take advantage of USC's weird defense where they do one thing well. If they only have to really stop one thing, they're good at that. So, I agree with you. Robert, you've got this basically one-score game here in favor of USC. Duck and I have made pretty strong points in favor of the Trojans here. And just one more thing. I consider, if I'm looking at the unit ratings here, everything's pretty good by Big Ten standards here, except for the USC offense, which we talked about is second in the whole country. It just seems like that's just the defining factor here, no?
It's weird. I'm not sure if this is maybe a mix of home away. Maybe my model is adjusting USC down for that, so that's why it's a bit tighter. I don't know. It's giving the maybe it's saying that USC. I think it's saying that USC basically runs a lot more, so therefore passes a lot more, so therefore their pass defense should be more effective against. But they can adapt. They're really good at running the ball too, so they can just run it all the time. So my model might not be figuring that part out per se, but we do have the same score though. It's basically just saying that we have 37, you have 37s, I have 38. What it's basically saying is mine's having Nebraska exploiting USC's
Yeah.
defense. Now, the one thing I will say though is that Nebraska is like seemingly allergic to covering spreads. Like it just seems like every single game, Loyola just cannot cover. And it's getting comical at this point. Like they didn't cover a 10.5 or 11.5, whatever what it was, against Michigan State. They didn't cover against Cincinnati. They got just absolutely blown out by Minnesota.
Northwestern.
They beat Yep, Northwestern. They didn't cover that game. They're actually in trouble in that game too, but they didn't cover it. So it's Nebraska has to be one of the worst ATS teams in the country, just straight up. So I don't know. The whole thing with Minnesota, that game felt so much like the okay Matt Rule to Penn State thing. That's what that game felt like so much. And it's such a weird thing where I don't. Matt Rule to Penn State is his own separate conversation outside of this. That's a conversation for another day. But it felt, that game felt really weird. And again, even against Northwestern, like it's beating Northwestern by 7. I think they're at home, right? Or were they at Northwestern?
They're at Northwestern. They closed down the pop-up stadium,
okay.
as I called it.
Yes, but they're not. That's not that far of a road trip either, though. So I don't know. Is beating Northwestern by 7 on the road that impressive? I don't think it's.
Nebraska was at home.
I'm sorry.
Oh, Nebraska. Okay, then that's even less impressive then. Because Oregon crushed them on the road. Oregon beat them by, I think it was like 18 or something.
More than that.
Because it was a last-second cover. It was a last-second cover by Nebraska, Northwestern. It was a last-second cover by Northwestern to cover that game. But again, it's just okay. But I don't know. That was very unimpressive to me. So my model should be saying on Nebraska here, it just really doesn't believe in this USC defense. And it's funny because I think I had USC outright against Notre Dame 2 weeks ago. Was there for a bit, but then it went away. But now I'm like Nebraska. Now I have Nebraska keeping it close. So I got no idea in this game. I'm just going to leave this one alone and watch this game. This game seems like a good game to watch.
Yeah, you make a good point. I want to look up real quick because this is, I think we can still make this argument at this time of year. I want to look up Nebraska, unless you guys know off the top of your head. I'm trying to look up their best win. I guess it's Cincinnati in week 1, right? That's what it has to be. And Cincinnati's, I don't know if they're the same team, but besides that, it's, yeah,
Well, a game they could have lost. A game that they had chances that Cincinnati was throwing into the end zone and could have lost.
Yeah, I guess the thing is they did a good job on Sorsby, who's been, to me, surprisingly good this season. But why even take the chance? Just run the ball. This team could be run on, and this is a good running offense. The other thing, too, back to that run the ball thing for USC, they have the bye week. It looks like their starting center is going to be back this week. He was in pads. And the bye week after, I think that's going to be very helpful. You might remember they lost their top 2 running backs against Michigan. Having that bye week just to get Brian Jackson just more acclimated to game speed and stuff, and just figure out the running back position is going to be big for this spot. So just a lot of things point to the Trojans in that spot. All right. Last game here. This is interesting to me. Wake Forest at Florida State. I've been, as the kids say, pimping Wake Forest for a little bit. Their defense has jumped into the top 20 a couple times. They have a top 10 pass defense now, as pointed out in the main body of the podcast. I'm just going to see, Robert, we talked about it. Gus Malzahn just screws our models. Let's just say that, okay? So he did it at UCF. He's doing it again this year. I'm not buying that, much as I love Athena and my model. 2+ scores for Wake Forest. It just doesn't, or for Florida State in terms of margin here, it just doesn't feel right. I think that this offensive rating here for Florida State is inflated quite a bit. Now, Tommy Castellanos is still something to deal with. Jake Dicker, we've seen this.
He may not even play.
Oh, he's not? Oh, that's right.
He might not play.
Yeah, he got decapitated against Stanford.
In that Stanford game, he did a really stupid play where he, sacrificed his entire body to get 5 yards and just got...
Well, it wasn't as... It was just like everything above the neck. That was just a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it at all. This is not going to be a fun one to watch. Now, granted, it's a late game, so you can just grab a cocktail and kind of just as a game aid here. But I think this is a lot closer than 8. I think this is a last possession kind of game here. And yeah, Wake Forest, early in the Dickard era, maybe it's a different thing going on the road, but I don't think this is going to be peak difficult Doak Walker Stadium in terms of difficult an opponent, since the fans kind of want the coach fired. I think Wake Forest can definitely keep this a last position kind of game. What do you think, Duck?
Oh, wholeheartedly agree. I don't understand why. And this line is 10 today.
Jeez.
You can bet Wake Forest plus 10. And Wake Forest has just had this tendency to play up against better competition. We've seen it on numerous occasions this season. We saw it last week against SMU.
Keep going.
And this, well,
To give you a hint right here.
played Georgia Tech
Keep
very
going.
close. Beat Virginia Tech. It's been
You're
really good for
overlooking
Wake.
game 1. Come on.
Defeated a really
There you
salty
go.
Kennesaw
Okay.
State squad. Squeaked out a win. There we go.
Yeah, no, but yeah, it's like year 1 stuff, right? It's
Yeah, Jake Dickert has this team playing really good defensive football, and why are we still believing FSU is any good? Losers of 4 straight. They beat Kent State and a bad FCS team prior to that, but we can't hang on to the one win. That doesn't matter anymore. It was 2 months ago. The team dynamic is different. The locker room is different. The players and what they're thinking about are all different. Everything's different now. It doesn't matter that they beat Alabama. It really just doesn't matter. Norvell is possibly losing this locker room. There's questions now on if Tommy C is going to play. And these are 18 to 22-year-old kids. What motivation do they have to show up and pound Wake Forest? You've lost 4 games. You haven't won a game since September 20th.
jeez.
And Wake Forest, third in the conference in pass play explosiveness. They've got 3 receivers that are averaging 15 yards a catch. FSU gives that up. FSU gives up a lot of pass play explosiveness, and they could really get torched here. Wake Forest, on the other hand, has a good secondary. They don't get beat deep. Could be tough to run on Wake. I just absolutely do not see, especially if Claiborne is a full go. He's averaging 6.5 yards per carry on the ground this season. Florida State 1/10 in defensive rush play success. The Noles can be run on here, and it has not looked good for weeks. I just don't understand why they would be favored by double digits here. I like Wake Forest.
Okay,
I played
nice. Robert, I hope you took note when Duck said he's over Alabama, Florida State. You seem to still be like working through that. Are you past it yet?
Yeah. I think I used it more of as when I mentioned that game, I use it more derogatorily towards
Alabama, yes.
than a positive of Florida State. I think that's the correct way to use that game. I don't think you can. I think for 2 weeks you were like, oh wow, this Florida State team beat Bama, and now you're like, this Bama team lost to Florida State. There's a difference there, phonetic difference there. But no, what happened with Stanford? What was that? Like, here's the thing, and I can't remember if I said this on the podcast or I just said it to you guys, but I bet Stanford. I was like, because I saw that line. It was like a ridiculous line. It was like 18.5 or something. And I'm like, this would be really funny if. And then they just won the game outright, too. I was like, it was like my model had it closer than I think I had a 14-point game. And I'm like, it'd be really funny if they won. And again, West Coast, going from East Coast to West Coast, late kick. Okay, sure, give it a shot. They just win outright by 7, too. Or no, they won. No, they won by. No, was it 1?
No,
it
had to be a touchdown. I think it was a
touchdown,
touchdown. They couldn't take a field goal there.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly. They still won the game outright.
Yeah.
Again, like literally watching that game, I'm like the 18.5, the plus 18.5 is there's no, no, never in question. But okay, Miami was somehow also competitive with Stanford for a while there too, but then they just actually decided to play the second half, and then they scored 35, which you should do against Stanford if you're a good team. But remember, Florida State and Miami were competitive there. Obviously, Miami looked better at the beginning, and then Florida State made a bit of a comeback. So I think I'm just going to bet Wake Forest here and watch this happen. I think this is very clearly, because again, they have not won an ACC game. Hilariously enough, they've not won an ACC game since they beat Cal last year. And I keep saying this fact, but because it's a stat that's a weird stat, right? We never really talk of it. Actually, you mentioned it a little in the podcast for like Kentucky and Mississippi State. They haven't won SEC games in so long too. But it is so weird for other big name schools to be like, yeah, they haven't won like an ACC game, and like it is an ACC game. It's not an SEC game. There's bad ACC teams, just really bad ACC teams, like Stanford.
I was going to say that's a Stanford thing.
One of them, yeah. Like you can beat Stanford, like. It's crazy. Like I think this is very clearly if Norvell, because there was a statement saying that the university's behind Norvell, which is not very comforting. We're focused on getting the program as many wins as possible, which is not particularly comforting if you want Norvell to stay very long. That was far from like he's the coach, he's not going anywhere. That's just like we need to get as many wins as possible. But good luck with that. I think this is very clearly if he doesn't win this game, if he loses this game outright, he's gone. There's no way. There's no way.
Yeah, we might see a new name on the firing range graphic. Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be big trouble.
Yeah. All right, so we're all aligned on this. Yeah, and again, I'll put it this way. It's interesting that because Gus fooled both of our models last week, but he's not fooling your model in this one. I think there's something to be said. Or if to the extent that he's fooled, and once you normalize for that, this is really a Wake Forest play by your model.
One last point I'll make on this before we go. I feel like your model might be being tripped up a little bit more by the Alabama game than my model is.
Yeah.
Because that 12.7 just screams, "Hey, we beat Bama." That's literally it. Does it? It says we beat Bama, and not that we lost to Stanford.
It's the quintessential Gus. It's like we got a bunch of yards in this one game against what's turning out to be a very nice defense. It's punishing the model.
And the thing is, mine puts a bit more a weight on the more recent games and less on the back games, and that's just saying, all right, you're done.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
You've had enough to drink. You're done today. Okay. Yeah. All right. Time for quacks. 3 questions, and one of them is going to be surprised. I didn't give you guys a heads up before. Duck, first of all, should we worry about Buffalo? I know you're a believer, but man, it's getting harder to believe with that loss to Akron, and Akron's not as bad as maybe as we thought, but man, I'm seeing this is tough. A 1-score win against Kent State. I'll overlook the losses to Troy and UConn, whatever. A 1-point win against Eastern. A 1-score win against UMass. I think they were in like serious trouble in that one too, if I remember. Is it time to worry about the Bulls? Do you think that they can turn it around here? Now, it's only one conference loss, but boy, how concerned are you?
It's not been good. It's 3 weeks in a row that have looked terrible against inferior competition, and it's just really stunning how the offense just cannot put it together with the pieces that they have.
Yeah.
A team that looked so good early in the season, and they have just completely stunk. It's really been surprising, in my opinion, to see. Yeah, there's definitely a reason to be concerned, I think.
The MAC is indecipherable this year, right? It's kind of like the Heisman for the first half of the year where nobody can really be the team for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot of congestion in the standings, too, when you look at the top of the MAC standings. And a lot of these teams, there's still a lot of carnage left to be. Central Michigan's not going to win the MAC, but they're at the top of the MAC standings with Miami of Ohio. I still think Miami is going to lose a game or two in MAC play. Ohio U has a loss. Toledo has 2 losses. Western Michigan could be the best team in that league.
And they just lost.
And they just lost. So it's really hard to say who's going to separate themselves. I'll be honest with you. I could really see a path where I don't like this team. I don't like this coach. But I could see a path to Toledo getting in there and ending up.
Don't know that they have 2 losses already. But they lose
They got.
Yeah, everyone else will end up with
unfair.
2.
I feel like if you lose to Washington State that bad, you shouldn't be able to win back. Just like out of principle.
Man, you just bummed me out with that. It can happen too.
It's like the MAC has to be the most unpredictable conference, right? Like it doesn't get that rap, but like there's no. I don't think I've ever predicted, and I've never really bet on MAC championship game winners, but I've never gotten it right. Even if it's like the conference game. Like that line there is there, and my model has a play on it. It's always the wrong play. I don't know what it is. I just can never. Everybody has their strengths. Mine is just specifically not betting on MAC championship games. Single games, that's fine. Single games, that's fine. But like MAC championship games, just don't do it. Just not.
What a unique superpower! It's like, yeah, I'm the superhero, and Brussels sprouts do not affect me in any way. Okay, noted.
Yeah,
Buffalo. I twice ate it on Lance Leipold, where before the season I got the Bulls and they got all the way to the title game and they lost both of them. Jeez, that's a tough one. Okay. Duck, I'm curious about this because you and I were on the same side on a lot of these. Bowling Green has 3 wins. Marshall has 4 wins. Jacksonville State has 4 wins pending today. I don't know if they've lost or they won today.
Nope, they just won. They just pulled another one out.
Ball State has 3, which is, I don't know, if we translate like kind of a Canadian to US dollar, that's actually 5 for a normal team. These teams are doing way better than I expected at this point. Should we just toss these first-year coaches in G5 programs in terms of like unders and season win totals? Or is this just an aberration? I'm seriously thinking about just like ditching this whole angle. I was certain Marshall was going to stink. I was certain Jacksonville State was going to stink.
Yeah, the two teams that we thought were a lot better that ended up being absolute garbage are Texas State and Liberty, and that's cost us both ways because Liberty has lost to Bowling Green and Jacksonville State, which we didn't
True.
expect. Bowling Green's fine; they're 3-5; they're not going to surpass. But we anticipated that Liberty was going to be better and defeat Bowling Green and Jacksonville State. That has not been the case. For me personally, I expected Texas State to be better and defeat Arkansas State and Marshall. Both of those things have not happened.
Unreal.
And so I think the real concern is I think that it's not that we were far off on the teams that we projected to be bad or worse than expected, but I think their competition, we've had a transient nature about the rosters, and when you deep dive all these teams, I mean, we projected Texas State to be solid because they had been, and will replace their quarterback. Their coach has a system that works out of well. Texas State is absolute garbage. They may not win another game the rest of the season.
Yeah, we got to stop the G.J. Kinney to Oklahoma
And that's
State
been
talk
hard.
too. That's a tough sell now. On Marshall too, Carlos Del Rio Wilson. He's popped into the top 10 on my QB metrics. Is there something to the Marshall offense? This is in the weeds. You live in the weeds more than Robert and I. Is there actually something here? Like, should a really astute head coach be looking at maybe picking up their offensive coordinator? Because I don't think that's Tony Gibson that's making that happen.
No, it's not. And I don't know. They had two performances at home, and if you're looking at it through the other lens, they caught Old Dominion in such a spot looking ahead to JMU. Old Dominion ended up getting blown out anyway, but they were clearly looking ahead to JMU and just didn't show up. And then Texas State gave that game away so many different times. Texas State had so many chances to close that game out. They led the entire second half, and then it goes to overtime, and they happen to just stop them once. But the reason Marshall's output was so high is because the game went to double overtime. They didn't score 40 points in regulation. In fact, they scored 16 through three quarters against Texas State. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm there yet on Marshall. I think they've played a couple of really bad defenses, and the Sun Belt is full of them. So maybe that is just what they're going to be. But yeah, we'll see throughout the rest of the season. Marshall's another team, too, where it's just really unfortunate that they got so hot because we counted on them losing to Old Dominion and Texas State. Now, if their regular season win is going to stay under, they have to lose tomorrow. They have to lose to JMU, and they're going to have to lose one more. We're probably going to be putting the eggs in our basket on Georgia Southern
I was
or App
say,
State.
don't tell me Georgia Southern. That's just mean. I'm looking at a nice road win for my Trojans, and now you're saying I have to root for Clay Helton. That was just mean. Okay. Appreciate the insight, though. All right, for both of you, and you didn't have prep for this, and Robert, you and I talked about one aspect of this a little bit. Okay. So you're the athletic director for Tulane or South Florida or North Texas or Memphis, and it feels like you're going to lose your coach to one of these dozens of job openings here. But you're at one of these successful American Conference programs. Who are you going after? I'm going to give you A or B. Which one are you making a harder run at first to run your program? And this is very self-serving in one regard, so I'll go with what Robert and I talked about first. A is offensive coordinator Will Stein, who I think is about as good of an offensive coordinator as there is. I don't think that's really controversial. B, you might be able to see this coming, would be Jerry Mack. And I'm serious. This turnaround is unbelievable. This is a tough one for me. Doc, I'll let you go first. If you have to go, and look, I'm calling both, but if I have to basically chase down one of them, A or B, who are you going after, Stein or Mack?
What Jerry Mack has done there has been absolutely stunning. He's squeezed more juice out of the orange than I could have ever imagined at Kennesaw State. The turnaround and the way that Kennesaw State plays too, they execute well on third down. They have a system that they run, and they run it well. The quarterback play has been sharp. Defensively, they fly to the football. They really don't give up a lot of cheapies. They're a really good football team, and they're very well coached. And so I would say that if it's either of those two, then I would say it'd be Mac.
Okay. And he did have success. I think it was at North Carolina A&T. Is that where he was before? Do you know? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he had a conference title in 3 years there. Robert, are you gonna decimate your Ducks and go after Will Stein, or are you gonna go after Jerry Mack?
The thing is, I almost wonder if we're at a point now where some of the offensive coordinators at like an Oregon or in Indiana are just gonna, if you're Florida or Penn State or whatever, and you don't get your number one, I feel like you just say, you know what, hiring Georgia's defensive coordinator with Dan Lanning worked out pretty well for Oregon. I feel like you just say, because if you don't get your number one, obviously with oh my God, Signetti off the board in Indiana, possibly Kenny Dillingham off the board too. There's seemingly a bit of a logjam here of who are you going after. There's a couple, of course, obviously Lane Kiffin, and people are trying to go after Clark Lee and stuff. But there's a bit of a logjam there. It's like we've already got three big openings for Penn State, LSU, and Florida. Could have another one with Florida State after this weekend. Could have another one with Auburn if they lose a game or two. So there's a lot more potentially coming. So this is the thing where I think what you do is you probably, if I'm them, I'd go after Bronco Mendenhall. That'd be one I'd call probably. Another one, I'm not sure because these are in the American,
yeah.
right? And Charles Huff with Southern Miss is also in the American too, but it would still be an upgrade
No,
comparatively.
he's in the Sun Belt. That's not
Oh, they're
bad.
in the Sun
Belt.
Belt. Okay. Yeah, so it's Charles Huff, Chesney for JMU. That one could also be one as well. It's a bit of a lateral. I feel like you could possibly make an argument that he should be a potential candidate for some of those head coaching jobs, the bigger ones. So this is the thing, right? That's who I'd start going after. Lower tier coaches who have shown promise. I think Bronco Mendenhall is probably one of the top ones for that. Like with limited resources, like again New Mexico, and then Utah State, and like the fact that's even a decent product. I'd maybe theoretically that coach there at San Diego State, but that's probably a bit more of a lateral move considering the fact that they are technically, depending on how they score it, going to be a Power 5 conference. Depending on how they score it, I don't know how that's going to work, but
It's the Canadian dollars thing. It's
the
0.76 of a power conference.
No, because technically in the official bylaws, the Pac-12 is a power conference. I don't know if they voted to not make them a power conference anymore.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Let me put.
I don't know if it matters because it's the five highest conference champions, so there is no. They're trying to murky the waters, so there is no G5 and P5 because the way that works now is that it's the top five highest conference champions, and then they go at large outside of that. But
so, Robert, to put you on the spot, then you have to take you have to go for one of the two: Will Stein, Oregon State or Oregon offensive coordinator, or Jerry Mack, Kennesaw State head coach. Who are you calling? You just lost Eric Morris to Oklahoma State. Now you have to fill the North Texas job.
I don't think Will Stein would take it. I think Will Stein could have a better option somewhere else. So I think I'm going after. I'd go after Kennesaw State.
I think that's a fair assessment. Of course, I'm going to home for the Kennesaw State, but I think that's I think at this point, there's not a lot of coordinators. It used to be for a long time, like forever. You had Brent Venables. It would be like, when's this guy going to get a head coach job? You don't really have that kind of coordinator anymore, do we? Can you guys think of a coordinator? This guy's got to get a job. He needs to get a head coaching job. Can you guys think of one? Was really good as Jim Knowles, but he doesn't really seem like the head coaching type.
Yeah, it's very weird. There's not a lot of, but they always find some.
And sorry, Duck, just
there's a guy that
go ahead, please.
Trying to think. I'm just trying to remember who it was. There is one guy that should get a head coaching job.
And maybe this is I'm going to put together the other side of that.
Oh, Tim Skipper. Tim Skipper has to get a job.
Okay. Fair, but he wasn't even a coordinator. He was an analyst.
He did it at Fresno State last year, where he was a coordinator and was elevated to interim and did well.
Yep.
That's the guy I would be possibly going after. I would also Brian Vincent at UL Monroe, I think, is worthy of another job. Bob Chesney at JMU, I think, would be worthy of another job. There's Ricky Ronnie.
But just who's a coordinator that you see?
Coordinator.
Okay, it was Norm Chow, going back to like when you guys were watching SpongeBob still. Norm Chow's got to be a head coach. And then you had the whole Kirby, he was the defensive coordinator for a decade. There were just these guys. Brent Venables, like I said, it just seemed forever. It's like, this guy needs a head coaching job. And I don't see a coordinator like that. I just right now. Can you think of one?
We've had this wave too of the new young
Yeah.
guys, and it's people that really need to spend 4 or 5 years in the seat, and then we'll have that conversation and be like, "Man, I can't believe that guy doesn't have a job yet."
Yeah, it's. I think so, and it's. I think the other thing that kind of exacerbates that trend might be where you see you've had more of that influx because you get like a Scott Loeffler just saying, "Screw it, I'm going to the NFL," or Kane Womack saying, "I want to be defensive coordinator. I don't want to run a Sun Belt school anymore." So that's just done an imbalance here too, right?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see some of that, and we saw that with Georgia State's head
Yeah.
coach too, where Sean Elliott
Where's
left.
the offensive
And
line coach now for? Yeah,
somebody,
somebody just got fired and they got promoted. Who just fired their? I
South
think
Carolina.
so. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, they were talking about how much better he is than the old guy, which is always the case, right? New assistant's always better than the old assistant, and they always have faith in the backup quarterback, as they say. All right, good stuff, guys. We appreciate it. Thank you both. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Robert. Any other things before we call it an episode to cover?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think a lot of interesting games this week. Some elimination games, obviously USC, Nebraska. Some other interesting ones. SMU, Miami could be interesting. Potential elimination game just specifically for Mike Norvell for FSU. But
Tennessee OU is
Yeah,
elimination.
yeah.
it is.
We're
That
gonna
is also
talk about that
elimination
one.
game
That's an
too. That's
interesting
right.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this could be a very interesting week, and I think this week's gonna shrink the playoff picture.
How about we end on this? How about tell me how improbable this is? Auburn beats Kentucky. Mark Stoops gets fired. Then Hugh Freeze later gets fired, and he becomes the new Kentucky coach. Possible? Doug, you're smiling.
It's possible. We're rapidly approaching a timeline where Jimbo Fisher gets a
There you
job
go.
next year.
Yep.
I feel like that's gonna happen. Someone's gonna say he wasn't that bad.
What do you think, Doug?
It's crazy, but that's
Yeah. Possible?
I don't. Tulane's guy has to get a
Yeah.
Power 5 job, I would assume, or a Power 4 job. So if Hugh Freeze gets fired, I'd be going there.
Yeah. Fair.
If John Summerall gets poached and Hugh Freeze were to be termed, I would absolutely say I'm going to Tulane, and that's where I'm going to sunset.
Would Tulane want him?
You get to live in New Orleans. You have tons
Yeah.
of. Probably. I don't know. I would guess. They would probably not.
You would
hate
trust
that.
Hugh Freeze in New Orleans? I don't know. Judgment issues there.
Maybe I
Okay.
wouldn't.
All right. Cool. Thank you both. Appreciate it. Good luck, everybody. Thank you for listening, and good luck this weekend. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, be well.